Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we're gonna talk about a project I'm quite excited to talk to you about, because it's a farm, as usual, but a farm that is as 1.19 as it gets. It's a Froglight Farm that uses allays and sculk sensors. But before we get to that, I would like to say a huge thank you to my friend DrJanCyan, without whom this project wouldn't exist. I will leave a link to his page in the description so you can go and subscribe. He's got plenty of amazing and very funny videos. So, first and foremost, let's review the basics that we need to make this farm. And to understand what we need to make this farm, we have to understand how Froglight is made. You probably already know that, but Froglight is made by frogs when they eat small magma cubes. Magma cubes, as you also probably already know, come in three shapes and sizes, which are the big magma cube like this one here, which splits into medium magma cubes like these three ones here, which in turn splits into small magma cubes, which are edible for the frogs. And as we just saw happen twice, whenever a frog eats a small magma cube, it drops a Froglight. So let's get rid of this last medium magma cube and see the frogs in action. And this is our Froglight. Which brings us to our first question. Where are we going to build our farm? Well, of course, we're gonna need frogs and magma cubes, but frogs and magma cubes don't live in the same biomes. Frogs live in swamps. Magma cubes live in the nether, mostly in basalt deltas, which is the biome everyone hates the most. The easiest way to bring one to the other is of course to bring frogs to basalt deltas, which is what we're gonna do. But let's remain in this test world for a while before we move on and go to a basalt deltas. So now our second question. How are we going to turn big and medium magma cubes into edible small magma cubes? We're gonna use snow powder placed in a checkerboard pattern because we don't want to use a lot of it. It's quite annoying to gather since it must be gathered in buckets, and buckets are not stackable when they're full. So here, oh, we are lucky. This magma cube here is gonna help us demonstrate what happens. See, it's shaking because its head is in this snow powder snow. Now these ones should start shaking very soon as well, because their head, although it didn't look like their head was inside of the powder snow, it actually was. Medium magma cubes have a hitbox of 1.04 blocks, which means when they're here, their head is actually in the block above them. So, we have our mobs, we have our killing method, so we have basically what we need to make a farm. At this point, we could simply slap together a rectangular or square platform with a pattern of checkerboarded powder snow like so, and then have underneath it, for example, hopper minecarts collecting the loot. But that would leave us with a problem. Hopper minecarts, unfortunately, are not very reliable. On relogs, sometimes they get off tracks, and you have to place them back onto the tracks, which is always very annoying when using large platforms. So what are we gonna do? Well, luckily for us, there's a new player in town, the allay. As you know, the allay has the ability to collect items that are decided by the player. For example, if I give it this lever here and then drop a lever, it will pick it up and bring it back to me, as it just did. Let's see, do it again. Here. Allays can also be tethered to node blocks. When I hit this block, you'll see a wave-like particle being emitted by this node block and going straight into the allay here, this blue particle here. I'm not sure it's very easy to see on camera, but it's there, trust me. Once it's tethered to a node block, instead of bringing the item back to the player, it brings it back to the node block, as it just did here. So if we have, for example, the lever that I just threw to it, it threw it right underneath the node block into these hoppers there. As you can see, the lever is here. But you might be wondering, isn't it dangerous to use the allay with powder snow? Well, luckily for us, again, allays have a very particular ability. They can restore some of their health. Let's spawn an allay here to demonstrate this in real life. So normally an allay would be dead in 3 hits, like so. Let's see it again. So for this poor allay, in 3 hits it's dead. Now let's spawn one and wait a while between each hit. It took 3 hits, but it's still alive, which demonstrates it restored some of its health. And it took a 4th hit, and it's still not dead. And now it died with 3 hits, so it restored its entire health. Which means allays will never stay long enough inside of the powder snow to die from the cold. One thing that's gonna happen once we start using allays is that allays are gonna shape the final design of our platform. The reason why they are gonna shape it is that they have a behavior which makes them stay close to their node block up to 16 blocks. So here, for example, you will see if I hit this node block, the particle will be emitted into this allay, proving it's still tethered. As you can see, the particle is here, the allay is tethered. If I placed another allay a few blocks farther from there, the particles wouldn't be there. Let's try and demonstrate it. So now, theoretically, we should have 2 particles, but we only have 1. And you can see it goes straight into the one allay that is 16 blocks away from our node block. So, like I just said, the detection range of an allay to stay tethered to its node block is 16 blocks. So the optimal shape for our farm is going to be exactly what we have here. It's a diamond extending 16 blocks in each cardinal direction from a central node block. The most observant of you might have seen that here we have a ceiling that is at our spawning platform y plus 5. The reason for that is that magma cubes aren't the only mobs that spawn in basalt deltas. Ghasts are there too, so while we're at it, why not collect their loot as well as a bonus? It's not gonna be much, but it's still a nice bonus to have gas tiers and gunpowder basically for free. But there's one thing we still need to take care of. Allays don't stay tethered to their node block forever. We have to regularly remind them of where their node block is. And in order to do that, we can use redstone. If I place a solid block here, for example, and a lever here, when I activate this lever, you'll see the particle being emitted and going to the alley. We could use basically a clock to keep activating this node block repeatedly, but there's an even simpler way that we can do it. Let's go back to our first test platform and demonstrate what we're gonna use. As you probably know, another new block in 1.19 is this, the sculk sensor. The sculk sensor senses movement. So, as you can see, every time a mob moves, it receives a blue particle similar to the one that the alley receives when the node block is activated, and it lights up. See here, it just lighted up. And whenever it lights up, it actually emits a redstone signal. See? And the strength of that signal depends on how far the mob that caused it is. But that's not going to be important for today. Here, what we're gonna do is place a block like this and a bunch of sculk sensors connected to a redstone wire with repeaters like so, so that every time one of the mobs inside of our trap moves, the node block is activated and keeps the allays tethered. The range of detection for these sculk sensors is 9 blocks, so we're gonna place them strategically somewhere around here, perhaps 8 blocks from the edge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 blocks from the edge and 8 blocks from the central node block. And this, as we can see here, will keep constantly our node block reactivated and our allays tethered. So now let's move on to the world where I built this farm and see it in action for real. So here it is. As you can see, we have our platform here, our powder snow here, our allays here. We have 6 allays because we're trying to collect 6 different types of mob loot. Each of the 3 Froglight colors, plus magma cream, plus gunpowder, plus gas tiers. As you can see, our node block is activated properly by the sculk sensors. So let's go to the AFK point and see a few mobs spawn. So we just have our first magma cubes that spawned, and soon they should start getting destroyed. Now we have our first ghast, and as you can see, it also takes damage from the powder snow. And it died. I probably would need to spawn proof these blocks over there. As you just probably saw, these magma cubes spawn there, but they didn't stay for long, so that's pretty safe, I guess. So let's see rates. I did 2 different types of rate testing here. One type was with 9 frogs, 3 of each type, and the other one was with 12 frogs. With 9 frogs, this is how much Froglight I got in 1 hour, and with 12 frogs, this is how much I got. So basically there is no difference. 9 frogs is enough. As for the rest of the loot, here and here. So as you can see, the gas loot is not much, but it's there, and since it's basically free, there's no reason not to collect it. So that's it for today. I hope you liked this very 1.19 farm. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below and I'll make sure to reply. Thank you again for watching and goodbye.